Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome back, because this time I'm going to do a ranking of every DC Extended Universe movie from the worst to the best. And before we get started, just so you know, I would love to see your list down below in the comment section. I'd love to see your ranking, so don't forget to drop down the comments. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below on the bottom of the screen, so don't forget to do that while you're at it. And with all of that out of the way, let's get started. In last place is Josstice League. This is easily, without a doubt, the worst DCEU movie we've had thus far. It takes Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, just tosses it into the trash, and decides to cut down Zack's story into 2 hours, leaving everything to be rushed, not deserved, and they did Batman and all these characters very dirty, and plus the CGI looked really bad, especially with Superman's face and his mustache, and Steppenwolf was a really generic villain in this cut, and it feels so rushed. There was no story, there was no build-up. It just felt empty, heart and soulless, and it just feels like an absolute misfire of a movie, and all of it was caused by studio interference, and it leaves a really bad taste in my mouth, and it doesn't sit well with me in my stomach. It is a massive disaster. It is just, without a doubt, one of the worst comic book movies I've seen. The CGI looked terrible, and the characters were really bad in this movie. It's all of it. It is not a Justice League movie that we wanted at all. Next up is Suicide Squad. Now, this is also another one of the worst DC movies in the extended universe and in general, because while they have a solid cast with Margot Robbie and Will Smith and Joel Kinnaman in them, the script was not so great. But that's because David Ayer was rushed into doing this in 6 weeks because the studio didn't give him enough time to write it. And there's a lot of the villains in this movie were just not that good. The CGI looked really weak and messy, and there was no tension in this movie, so I didn't feel any sense of danger, or I didn't feel like I cared for any of these characters aside from like Deadshot and Harley, and it was just too dark of a movie. Like, it had like a lighthearted tone, and it just doesn't mesh with this movie, and the score, the soundtrack, doesn't mix with this movie as well either, because it feels like you have like this pop song playing in like this action sequence that feels like it came out of a much darker movie, and it feels like them trying to knock off Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's all because studio interference interfered. David Ayer deserved a lot better than this, and so did the whole crew. So Suicide Squad, while it's not as bad as Justice League, it's still pretty bad regardless. In ninth place is Wonder Woman 1984. This is probably one of the more disappointing movies in this series, because I was really looking forward to this movie because I really liked the first one, and I saw them film scenes for this movie, and at first I liked the movie, but over time I liked it less and less and less, because then the issues start to stand out. So when I start with the positives, I thought Pedro Pascal easily was the best part of this movie. I loved him as Maxwell Lord, and I really liked the third act of this movie. It was better than the climax in the first movie, and I thought the villains were better. However, it falls short in almost every category outside of that. I didn't like how they brought back Steve Trevor, how you take him and he just comes into someone else's body, but you can have missiles and walls come out of nowhere. It makes no sense to me. The logic of the Wishing Rock is very poorly explained. It makes no sense. Like, I get it's a magic rock, but you have to have the rules make some sense, which it doesn't, sadly. And it makes Wonder Woman take advantage of the guy that Steve is inhabiting, and it makes her much worse in the movies because of what happened in that movie, and she doesn't suffer any consequences for it. I did not like that at all. Plus, when it comes to her character arc, it feels like it's a very fillery episode, because it starts at the same place that she was at the end of the first movie, and by the end of 84, she's in that exact same place. It feels like no growth has happened, no changes happen, and it feels like an absolute waste of her character in this movie. Plus, it is a really slow movie. It takes way too long to get from point A to point B. And after the mall scene in the beginning, you don't have another action sequence like an hour later in the movie, because that's how slow it is. There's so many unnecessary scenes. The exposition is not told very well, and it's not well paced at all. And Cheetah, Kristen Wiig was good as a character, but she felt underutilized. It felt like she was there just so that Wonder Woman has a physical threat to fight. In the end, Wonder Woman 1984 is an absolute disappointment and easily one of the weakest movies in the series. Coming up next is Birds of Prey. Now, there is a big gap between Wonder Woman 1984 and this movie. This movie is one of the more shorter movies in the series, probably the shortest yet, but it's very well paced. Margot Robbie is great as Harley Quinn, because this time she is the main character in the film, and the action sequences are some of the best in the series that we got in the DC movies in this universe. And it's very colorful and vibrant, and I really like that. And I thought the acting was really great from the cast all around, and I really dug Black Mask as the villain. He's probably one of the better villains in the DCEU. And I really like Black Canary and Huntress them, even though I wish we got a little more of Huntress, because she had the least screen time out of the 5 Birds of Prey characters. And I wasn't too big of a fan of Cassandra Cain. And I wish we got more of Huntress, and I wish the characterization was a little bit better, and I wish the movie was a little bit longer, because it felt way too short for what it is. But overall, it's a fun movie. Not top tier, but it's fun for what it is. Coming up next is Aquaman. Now, this is one of the more fun, adventurous movies in the series. Jason Momoa is having the time of his life as Aquaman in this movie, and the visuals are beautiful. And I really liked how it takes a character like Aquaman and just puts him on this adventure to find the Trident to unite the 7 kingdoms of Atlantis and stop his brother from starting a war on the surface world. It's a fun movie. It has some funny moments here and there, and the visuals are great. And the comic book suits in this movie are fabulous. Whether it's Aquaman's costume or Ocean Master's costume, they're really good in this movie, and it's a fun movie here or there. The movie could have been a little bit shorter, and I wasn't too big of a fan of Mara's character, and I thought the dialogue could be kind of cheesy from time to time, but overall, it's a fun movie. It has its moments with lots of great visuals and some great acting from Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson and Willem Dafoe. So it's a very fun and adventurous movie in the series. These next 2 spots on my list are interchangeable, so this isn't necessarily a definitive spot yet, but just know that these 2 movies are pretty close into one another. Coming up next is Wonder Woman. Now, this is a great movie with the iconic superhero, and it takes her to the world of man, where she's caught in World War I, and she teams up with Steve Trevor, played marvelously by Chris Pine, as she tries to stop Ares and end the war. There are a lot of marvelous action sequences in this movie. The cinematography is great. The visuals are beautiful. And Gal Gadot does a solid job here as Wonder Woman. And I thought the first 2 acts, especially in the No Man's Land sequence, were very well done. However, Ares was not a good villain. He comes off as generic, and he just delivers monologues everywhere in that 3rd act. And I thought the 3rd act was really weak in comparison, because it just doesn't line up to what the first 2 acts were, where it's like war movie, and then action epic with explosions everywhere. Doesn't work for me. And then because of it undermines the message that it's like killing one man doesn't end a war, yet she killed Ares and then the war seems to be over. It undermined that message, and I thought the 3rd act wasn't that good. Apparently that's not what Patty had in mind, but yeah, it is what it is. But Patty still did a great job directing this movie, and it's a solid first outing to the Wonder Woman character, and it's one of the better movies in the DCEU. Next up is Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. Now, this is a movie where it was controversial at first, but the Ultimate Edition just elevates this whole movie so much more. Ben Affleck is amazing as Batman, and the visuals are gorgeous. And it had lots of marvelous and beautiful cinematography work from start to finish. And it has an excellent score by Hans Zimmer. And I loved how it had a political thriller vibe instead of being this superhero movie about Batman and Superman clashing. And I liked the political thriller vibe, and I thought Zack Snyder did a really good job directing this movie. And there's so much detail into it, where the more you watch it, it gets so much better. And that's what happened with me. Because once I started watching the Ultimate Edition, which is the superior version, the movie gets better and better and better every time. And I love it so much more every time I watch it. The action sequences are great, especially the warehouse fight that Batman has against all of those people. And Superman is great in this movie. There's a lot more scenes of him in this version, and it just elevates this movie as a whole. And it is a nice movie that sets up Zack Snyder's Justice League. So Batman v Superman is a movie that was very controversial at first, but I thought it aged very well as time goes on. These next two spots on my list are interchangeable, so this isn't necessarily a definitive spot yet, but just know that these two movies are pretty close into one another. In fourth place is Man of Steel. Now, this is also a movie where the more I watch it, the more I love it. I am a huge Superman fan, and I love this movie ever since I first watched it. And I just thought Henry Cavill did a terrific job as the Man of Steel himself. And Amy Adams was great as Lois Lane. And this movie has some absolutely outstanding visuals and cinematography work. And I loved that opening 20-minute prologue on Krypton. And the action sequences are amazing. And it does a great job at making a Superman character like him placed in like this more real world feel, and I like that a lot. And Zack Snyder did a really good job with even the symbolism that he is sort of like a Christ-like figure because of him being a hero and the powers that he holds. And Zod is one of the best villains in the series by far, played very well by Michael Shannon. And there are lots of great moments, and it's a movie that's actually really well paced, and it gets so much better over time. And Man of Steel is also one of the best DC movies ever made. Next up is Shazam. Now, this is a movie that I really, really like because this movie has that vibe of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, because this is about a kid who has the power to turn into a godlike man by saying one word. And Zachary Levi brings so much life and joy into this role, and you can see he's having such a fun time with it, and the acting is really great all around, and it's really great visually, and it's also really fun. It's very funny. It has lots of heartwarming moments, and even emotional moments like when Billy finds his mom. And it has a great third act that perfectly caps off what came before. Shazam is a very lighthearted movie, and it's a welcome one in the DCEU. In second place is The Suicide Squad. Yep, the recently released DCEU movie takes number 2 on the list because it is action-packed, it's awesome, it's bonkers, it's crazy, it's funny, it's emotional at times, and it's a blast from start to finish. James Gunn does a great job at taking all these characters and make them all pop with their suits and their abilities and their color schemes and all that. It's such a great movie with lots of fun moments, and it's very heart-racing from start to finish because of how dangerous this mission is. And because it's a Suicide Squad movie, you feel the danger that they're in and that you want them to succeed no matter the cost. And there is a lot of violent moments here and there, which increases the urgency that they are in. And plus, because the Suicide Squad movie, you have deaths, and the movie does not hold back with that. And it's so great. It's one of my favorite comic book movies ever made at this time, and it leaves me really excited to see what happens now, and so has the upcoming Peacemaker show. But coming in first place is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, this is a movie that I was hoping we would see, especially after what happened with Josstice League, and the fact that we finally got to see Zack's vision of the movie. I remembered watching it in awe of how amazing this is. This is the best DCEU movie we've had thus far. It takes Batman and Superman. It makes these characters so much better than what they were in Justice League. And the visuals and cinematography are some of the best in a comic book movie. And it has a lot of scenes that make me so happy and excited, like Flash in the Speed Force, Superman coming in to stop Steppenwolf, and all these great moments. It tells all the story in very good ways, and it's very well paced for a 4-hour movie, and it is a love letter to DC with a great soundtrack by Junkie XL, and Steppenwolf is a much better villain here, and a villain you can actually sympathize with, or sympathize for, and I just love this movie so much. It is one of my favorite DC movies. It is a movie I never thought we could see this soon, but we did. It was well worth the wait. I loved every minute of it. It is like the best DCU movie, and it is a true Justice League movie, and I love it so much, and I am grateful that Zack Snyder finally got to release his version of the Justice League movie. So it comes in at number 1. Thank you guys so much for watching this ranking, and don't forget to let me know down below in the comment section, what's your ranking? What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? What's in the middle? I would love to see your ranking of all these movies from worst to best, or best to worst, and whatever you want to do it. I would love to see it down below in the comment section, and don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below on the screen, so don't forget to do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. You can hit that like button and press the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more.
Fail the mission, you die.
If we find out any information you give us is false, you die.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.